Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages, everyone that's in the hobby. And good morning, Dr. Beckett, and good morning, Victor.
Good to see you, Brad.
Good morning,
I
Brad.
And you too, Victor.
appreciate everybody joining us. Wanted to first start off by, saying thank you to our wonderful friends at Sports Card Shop at Moco, Rex, all the kids. Wanted to say thank you very much for having us up there. Thank you very much for being big supporters. But wanted to say thank you, and y'all have an absolutely fantastic day.
We need to do a live broadcast from Moco.
We do. We
I'm close to
absolutely
there.
do.
I think maybe I can take a drive up there one Saturday or Tuesday even, and we can go live with the folks over at Moco. What do you think?
That'd be great.
We got to line that up.
We do. Episode 188. Episode 188. We have myself, Brad Bethune, Texas Card Dude. We have the man that needs no introductions, but I'll introduce anyway, Dr. James Beckett. And we have Victor, Rookie Card Specialist. Rookie Card Specialist. Dr. Beckett, how was your week?
It was great. I started off Monday. I was at the industry summit.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
That's all. Just at the industry summit.
Just at the industry summit.
Speaker at the industry summit, but other than that, that's about it.
Well, it went on after I had to come back, but it was well attended. I think there's been criticism of it that people wanted to come, but they have to line up the room and the prize bags and all that stuff well in advance. And this was a record attendance, and yet they still could have sold some more tickets, but they got to cut it off because of the size of the room, the prize bags, the program was all set. So, but I had a great time. A lot of good people there, mostly retailers. Got a lot of card shops, a lot of LCS, and a lot of online retailers. So business people. It was definitely a B2B conference.
Excellent. Any tidbits you want to share? Anything that came out of it that you were shocked with?
I wasn't shocked, but now that I'm back, there's like criticism. There should have been more people there, or why weren't some other entities in the industry there, since it's billed as an industry summit. But I'm sure they invited everybody. But if PSA doesn't want to come to the Beckett Industry Summit, I'm not mad at them. I mean, it's their choice. But Fanatics was there really big, and Panini was there. Some guys from Topps, I guess. But again, Fanatics kind of was the big show. They had a lot of airtime, and pretty excited about what they're going to do to grow the industry.
Fantastic. Victor, I've heard a lot of comments about, PSA not being there at the industry summit. Any thoughts on or opinion on them not being there, or good, bad, or ugly?
As far as PSA is concerned?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it is a competitor, right? Beckett and PSA. So, I mean, I can see that aspect. But yeah, why they chose not to be there, I'm not sure. All we can do is speculate. But it's a business decision they missed out on, I guess you can say, an opportunity they missed out on. I have been a little, I guess, upset with certain hobby content that's out there. Certain comments you read on social media, even things that are said by other content creators, and that's that the industry summit was nothing but a good old boy network type thing, or nothing but a bunch of old people, that sort of thing. But I don't know. To me, it is advertised as an industry summit. It is designed for the business element of the hobby. It's not. It's not a trade night at the National. So that kind of perplexed me a little bit. And being that I'm on the 50-yard line of life, I've been labeled as an old guy myself. But old guys are actually a big part of this hobby. And if you look at it historically, the old guys are really the main vein of the hobby.
The old guys used to be the ones with all the money. Maybe not
Yeah.
so much anymore.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. The good old boy network, and you've got old versus new, and all that entails. I can see both sides of why PSA would be there, and I could see both sides of why PSA wouldn't be there. They're not necessarily hurting for money, so why would they need to be there and stretch out, you know, looking for business or looking for
Okay.
partnerships? So I can understand that aspect. Go ahead.
Brad, there's an important distinction. I mean, anybody can get a ticket and show up and sit in the audience, but um, if you remember the discussion about the Mint Collective, which was curated, I guess, and the speaking slots were determined by Christina Thorson of Card Ladder fame, and they were there at the industry summit. The Chris McGill and I didn't see Josh, but Christina, and Chris's brother were there, and they were filming, and they were wandering around and doing stuff. But again, if it's the Beckett Industry Summit, they're going to get to determine, Ted Barker, who gets up with the microphone. And so that was so PSA could come, but if they're not going to get a chance to speak to the whole group, which I'm not saying they would or wouldn't, but to me that's probably their determination why they wouldn't go if they're just sitting in the audience. Because they
Well,
can do that at a card show. They can go to a big show and wander around and like I say, Card Ladder was there, and that's part of collectors. It's part of the family of companies.
yeah, yeah. I just think, as a as somebody who is a leader in the industry, we'll call it the industry. Uh, I would think that they might want to be there to see possibly some different technology, or possibly some sort of new partnership that might be available out there. And by not choosing to go, that's closing that door or not giving them that opportunity to see different things.
I hate to speak for them,
I do too.
but let me just say this, is that they are in a dominant position, Brad. They don't need to knock on anybody's doors. They don't need to go a hunting for, uh, for business. They have all the business they can handle. People are knocking on their door, so they don't need to create greater awareness for their product. They're not looking for business, but they well, that so I don't. It's not that they don't believe in the industry. They're very bullish on the industry, but I think that if they look at the cost benefit of going to the show and supporting Beckett Media, they chose not to, and they didn't. I don't think they made any big stink about it. Like I said, Chris and Christina were there and circulating around. So and yeah, so I don't. I wouldn't make a whole lot about that.
All right. I just okay. I'll just leave it there. I'll just drop that right there. Even Danny's is saying that you're right. So I'll just pin that, drop that there.
Danny was. I saw Danny there. Danny asked me a great question, and yeah, and so I connected with Danny there. But basically, this wasn't. This was not like the Mint Collective where you were circulating and trying to meet these startups and all that. It was mostly local. 80% were retailers, were local card shops, and that. So they weren't these tech startups. There were a few of them there, and they had kind of booths out in the in the surrounding area. But it was mainly to help the retailers in the industry figure out how they're going to continue to be successful in a changing market.
Okay. All right. Then I misunderstood the concepts of what was there. So that
Well,
makes
that's how it
perfect sense.
started. I mean, it started out, Brad, in the back in the industry summit of the Kit Young days of Hawaii, which is what it was. It was old guys and the veterans, because there wasn't as much new blood back in the day. But they'd always scholarship in a bunch of card shops to come over to Hawaii. The distributors were very active. GTS even was very active at this. And so, I mean, that's the legacy of this show. It's not a consumer show. In fact,
I hate when that happens. No, but you know what? To piggyback on what Dr. Becker was even saying, a good point that he made that stood out to me. Industry
All right.
Summit.
I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, but we'll just get it going again.
There we
Let's
go.
try it now.
I was talking, and then all of a sudden my screen went black. So
You want to finish your point, Dr. Beckett?
I have no idea where I was.
No, go ahead, Victor. You work on yours, and then we'll.
Yeah, no, I was going to
I was
say to
talking to
piggyback off
myself.
of what Dr. Beckett said, in the aspect of PSA not being at the industry summit, I think a good point is by Card Ladder being there, there is a representation of PSA there.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll close that one out. What about you wanted to, Victor, talk about Hurricane Ian, and you wanted to shout out the victims of Hurricane Ian. I'll let you lead off with that.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to extend, a heartfelt shout out to those affected by Hurricane Ian. I know I did a couple of purchases on eBay over the past week that had to be canceled due to folks being affected by the hurricane, and just man, heart breaks when I see that and hear that, and I can only imagine I'm sitting here in my throne of cards, right, and I'm thinking, man, what if a hurricane came through here? How would that affect me? How horrible would I feel if I lost my collection to a hurricane or whatever catastrophe? And man, my heart just filled out with just wanted to shout out those folks, those collectors. Although we were not there, the hobby or was not there. In fact, the hobby has indeed been affected by Hurricane Ian in many ways.
Well, one way it might be that when I was thinking about what I wanted to say at the industry summit, one of the things I was going to talk about, but I decided not to because it would be stepping on the toes of my former company. But I was going to say there's too many vaults. Everybody's got a vault, but anybody in Florida would have wished that they had their cards in a vault
Yeah.
that was super secure. In fact, CSG, uh, you know, batten down the hatches. I think they weren't in the exactly in the path of the hurricane, but they were down there in Florida, and they locked down and locked up and no damage. But
Wow.
not everybody can have a vault in their house that they can like a storm shelter or something. And it's just the other thing I wonder, Victor and Brad, is that if you were a collector in Florida and you were in Fort Myers and your house was demolished, your graded cards, are they floating away? I mean, your regular
Ooh.
cards are soaked and beyond repair, but a
Right.
graded card, does it float?
I thought about that. What would I have done? And I think I would have heeded the recommendation to evacuate days in advance, and I believe my PSA cards would have been part of the packing up and let's go type of thing.
But
The rest of it, yeah, I would have lost it. There's just no
it
way.
it's another argument for having a smaller collection, which again, the old guard wanted to have a large collection with lots of complete sets. You can't evacuate all that stuff.
Right.
You can evacuate a Pelican case of Zion
Right.
case.
Yeah. There's a great comment here. I live on the East Coast, Florida. Forces me to manage the size of my collection for evacuations. I would have definitely, because my aunt was right in the path of the hurricane, and she is not a level 1 but a level 2 nurse. So level 1 is before the hurricane, level 2 is after. So she had to stay. She had to stay and batten down the hatches. Um, I I would make sure that I definitely had uh, at least the most valuable in the waterproof pouches, and then taking them with me, or just not even worrying about it, and leaving it all up to the man upstairs, and whatever happens happens. um, But
Brad, there's a interesting comment here from the breaks that it was just right after that other one, and it talked about you'd have ample time to leave the area with your clothes. Who cares about clothes? I'm wearing the clothes that I have on. I'm taking my cards and heading north, or actually heading north and then west. I'm going to Atlanta.
yeah, Danny's had a good. And make sure you're insured properly. Boy, I can imagine the hurricane insurance or the water insurance on a card living in a floodplain. I just couldn't do it. You got Bo.
Well,
Good morning.
your regular insurance isn't going to cover your cards anyway.
Right.
Well, you've got to get
You're going to have
special.
a special insurance policy for your collectibles.
Yeah, cars would be the last thing on my mind for sure. But the prep time though, they gave people plenty of prep time to be able to
Yeah.
to leave or do whatever they needed to do or to take care of themselves. It's the people that the doctors and the nurses and the emergency crews that have collections or that use the hobby or industry as an escape that we're worrying about worrying about taking care of their things and taking care of their stuff. We say good morning, Big Scott. And then we've got, yeah, that's true. You can go to the National and get 20 free hobby T-shirts to help soak up the water. That is 100%.
There's your new wardrobe, Jim. There you go.
There you go.
That was too easy.
Whenever I think of hurricane, I think hurricane glass. Oh, that's true. That is true. I'm trying to break that video, breaking into the hobby shop. And then Logan can buy more clothes, but he can't buy a 1972 SDP Richard Petty card. Yeah, that's true. They're getting really tough to find.
Yeah, because Logan has them all.
That's right, and he doesn't want to either trade or sell them. You had another topic here, Victor, about the Chicago Sports Spectacular, and an interesting where they had 2 trade nights in 2 separate locations.
Yeah, I got the email because I live near there. Chicago Sports Spectacular is held in the same building as the Donald E. Stevenson at the Donald Stevenson Convention Center, same place as the National. It's typically only about half the size of the National, and it's more for it's heavy on memorabilia. For those who haven't been there, they bring in a lot of autographed guests. So I got the email because I plan on attending that show. And I saw that they were advertising trade nights at this time on this one. And I looked into it a little bit further, and they're having one Friday night between 9 p.m. and 12 a.m. And they're going to have that one. I think at the DoubleTree, which is a hotel directly across the street. It's where Gibson Steakhouse is at. And then the following night, Saturday, they're going to have a trade night that starts at 6 p.m. and it's going to go all the way to 11 p.m. But that one is not at DoubleTree. It's at the Embassy Suites, which is also across the street. And so just wanted to, I bring that up for 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to bring up the card show. But secondly, is this a cue that we're going to get maybe for the National? Are they going to, the trade night, maybe they're doing a little bit of, they're trying to figure things out on how they can make this a little bit more smoother to where they're not flooded with people, but splitting it up between 2 hotels I found rather interesting. So we'll see how that all unfolds.
Well, I thought at the National, last time I was in Chicago, there were simultaneous, mini trade nights at a lot of these hotels that were close by anyway.
Right.
My question is when at midnight, when everybody leaves, if they even do leave at midnight,
If they even leave, yeah.
how much cleanup is required?
Right.
Because it's got to be amazing with people all over the place, moving things around. But I think it's dynamic, it's exciting, and I think it's a big draw.
I can imagine they're trying to bring some kind of ordinance to it. Because the last time it was in Chicago, it was pretty chaotic. So hats off to those folks that are working there. I'm sure they're going to be a little bit more properly staffed this time around.
Well, I'm thinking 12 p.m. That's early. Shoot, in Dallas, they go till 4 a.m.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then there's multiple that are held around every single Dallas card show, and now we're starting to see uh, individual entities pull off, individual companies, individual breakers holding their own trade nights within between the card shows. So you're getting trade nights uh, around the Dallas card show. You're getting trade nights almost weekly around town. So it's going to be very interesting to see within the next what uh, 8, 9, 10 months. How much? I don't know how far away we're. 10 months or something like that. How many trade nights are going to be planned, and then how many are going to be tried to be executed during the national, and then who do you choose to go to, and then you still got the ad hoc ones that are going to show up. So it will be very interesting to see what happens between now and the trade nights, and it's going to be very with the expansion of celebrities in the hobby. Does Whatnot pull all of their people that they have on their all their celebrities? And I'm thinking, I can't remember the Packers athlete that's on there. What if he jumps into a trade night? Are everybody going to go? I mean, there's just a whole you could add on and add on and add on and add on to just advertising ways and just different various ways of holding a trade night. So I think these next couple of months are going to be very, very interesting. So
I'm not a fan of regulation. The only regulation I want to see is fraud. If somebody's doing something bad, I want them to be put in jail, and so the over regulating the trade nights, I'm not in favor of that. I think the fact that it's so dynamic and so chaotic is part of the fun. Otherwise, it's just like an after hours card show. So it needs to have that dynamic. I can envision in Chicago, if we fast forward 10 months, is there going to be not necessarily apps, but they're going to be people in communication
mhm.
from these various trade nights that are all within a square mile, less than a square mile. And they're going to be people, videoing and showing things. And I think there's going to be people going back and forth. And again, I think it's going to be very exciting. Now it's going to get late at night, and people are going to be, if they're drinking or doing it, they're going to maybe make some bad decisions, but they're going to have fun with it. I mean, that's the dynamic aspect of trade night, is that you just don't know.
Yeah. And I like that. I actually like that idea of having multiple people in multiple places and doing like video content similar to this. So you were at one place, Dr. Beckett, and Victor's at another, and I'm at a third, and we're all on StreamYard. We're showing different things off in different areas, and you've got somebody behind the scenes that's actually um, using, showing similar to like it reminds me of the Iraq War, where you had multiple reporters in different places, and they're showing different things going on, or even different angles of a sporting event. Just seems something like that seems logical, or seems like a neat path to go down. That's all.
Well, we're on Bench Clear Media now, which I think is great. I like Mike and Ty and those guys, and I think they do a great job. But Mike is always talking about, when he goes to the national, his buddies, his other vintage buddies, are aware of what he's looking for, and they will text him or direct message him,
Yep.
hey, get over here because somebody's got something that you want. uh, I'm keeping an eye on it for you. Do you want me to pick it up? And so there's a close knit group of uh, of at least vintage collectors that I think look out for each other. So at a trade night, if that stuff's there, they're going to communicate, and I think that could be happening to a great degree as people collect together, and because that's not a random act of kindness. It's nothing random about it. It's that I know what Brad is looking for. If I see it at a trade night and Brad's not there, I'm going to message you and say, hey, do you want me to pick it up for you? Do you want me to trade for it? Do
Of course.
you want to come over? And I think that'd be exciting.
Yeah. This is a great question from This Is the Breaks. Why is the National always in Chicago? There needs to be a board who decides location every year. Different state every year would be cool. So we've had this conversation, but because this question came up, I thought it would be an interesting topic. Victor, why don't we get your thoughts first?
Yeah, it's the
Victor,
logistical sides of
Victor,
everything.
you want it to be in Chicago every year,
I,
don't
I do.
you? Come on.
That's why I wanted him first. I wanted to see him be impartial.
Very biased opinion on Chicago for sure. Yeah, to me, it's the logistical side of things. You just can't plant a national anywhere, and I think they did this year, which I respected. They did a poll on, and a lot of it is dealers have a strong voice and say in where this thing is held, and I guess they did a vote tally from what I hear. I don't know how true that is, but they're the ones who planned the next several years on where it's going to be. And I like Chicago, and I like it. We pivot every other year, maybe to a different location. I like that concept. I can't wait for the Cleveland one. And yeah, that's Dr. Beckett. You probably have more insight on this
Yeah,
than I
well, I
do.
mean, basically, it's not always in Chicago, but it's every other year in Chicago because I
Yeah.
think it's recognized in the best place. But the bylaws require that the national move at least 2 states away. So that's why it can go from Illinois to Ohio. There's another state in between, Indiana, or so it has to be 2 states away. There is a board. There is a kind of a board that is elected by the dealers, by the table holders, and most of the things like the locations are ratified. The committee, the board, vets the sites that these are sites, and then they either present the slate to the dealers, or in the old days they would say, "Hey, do you want to go to Cleveland or you want to go to Chicago?" And it'd be a vote of the dealers that had priorities above three or whatever. I don't know what the exact rules, but all the dealers from past nationals were getting a chance to vote. So it wasn't just one person. And these three guys that have taken over the national, they're going to be working within the bylaws. But I do hope they'll move it around even more, because I think that there's got to be a way to get it in some other locations. I'd love for it to be in Chicago a lot of the time, but as a true national, I'd like to see it not always be in Chicago. And I'm not at the point where it can never be in Atlantic City, because I really do think it should be on the East Coast more frequently. But Atlantic City, if just there was a way to take that convention center, which is excellent, and teleport it to Philadelphia, or someplace that's easier to get to and that's safer, I'd be happy. So the national, I think, is in good hands. I agree, based on the question, is that they could do a lot better job of communicating that this is, of the people, by the people, for the people. The collectors don't get a vote, but the dealers do, the ones that are setting up. The corporates don't get a vote. It's just the dealers.
Yeah, I'm a little biased. I want to see it back here in Arlington or in Dallas. I mean, I think K. Bailey Hutchinson Center, it would be just absolutely amazing. And honestly, Victor, the show at the National in Atlantic City, it was not any bigger than K. Bailey Hutchinson, and I think K. Bailey Hutchinson in Dallas was bigger. So it's it's not. It is possible to have it here in Texas. There are plenty of hotel rooms downtown. I would love to also see it in Anaheim. I want to see it back in Anaheim. I'd love to see it in either Miami or Orlando. I would love to see. I would love to see it in Tennessee or in. I would just love to see it in different states. That's all. If it's a national, if it's a true national, then it has to be in different locations. It can't just be locked down into the East Coast, because you've got to be able to give, and it's been proven by the gentleman on the West Coast that a big show could happen currently in today's marketplace. So I'm just hoping that they say, okay, let's go back to Anaheim, or even let's go to Seattle. Go to Seattle. I just want to see it just go into various places. So
Nobody's against that, Brad. And the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center that's downtown. It's certainly big enough. And that again, I like I said, I don't think they've done their PR. They haven't really communicated very well. There's lots of big city convention centers that have the size, but a couple things pop in. One is, and not down here, but there's union
mhm.
kinds of situations that can be difficult. And then furthermore, there are kind of guarantees for rooms at certain prices. And in some of these cities, they have it worked out to where you have to guarantee a whole bunch of rooms at a pretty high price. That's kind of the deal they have with the city. And so downtown Dallas, as opposed to being up in Plano, which doesn't have something big enough for the national, the room rates are very different. They're very, very different. And
Okay,
so,
then drop it into Jerry World, or drop it into Jerry World. There's enough hotels around the Arlington area. You could do that, and rates would be very reasonable. I mean, other than just going off of a different thought. That's all. That's all.
well, you can go off that thought, but like I said, I think the Jerry World does rent out for events, but tens of thousands of people tromping on the field and setting up tables and all that stuff, or being up in the I'm just not so sure about that. On the other hand, well, I mean, again, Brad, anything's possible.
Well,
But
they
again, I
have
don't think the national committee is going to put forth something that's untested, where
that's
they've never had a show. And Burbank, which I think was an excellent show, I think that still, in spite of how great it was last month or 6 weeks ago, it was still a very large regional show, mainly Southern California. So they overwhelmed the site that they had. They had lines going around the block. I don't think they had a lot of hotel rooms because people were driving in Southern California, coming up from Orange County or whatever. So the national is unique, Brad, and we need to try to make it move around a little bit more. And this new leadership, the new three guys, they're all East Coasters. They all have experience, and I'm hoping they'll listen to this and other good ideas that are coming out.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw this up here because anytime you get the Dallas Card Show and Kyle's name out, I'll definitely do that.
Kyle doesn't
That's
want to do that, Brad. Kyle
that's
wants to do his
true.
own show.
That is very true.
Kyle can do a show and call it the Southwest National or something. But again, it's not necessarily. Again, Kyle is very entrepreneurial, and but a lot of the promoters do not want to work with a committee that's telling them what
That's
they
true.
can and can't do. And so I don't see that. I see Kyle continuing to improve his shows, and again, Kyle, I just think his formula really works because it's not heavy on the corporates. When you have the corporates there, like at the National, the room is all of a sudden more than twice as big, and you've got these really big hitters, these really large companies that are telling you what they want, and it's way different than a dealer saying, "Hey, I don't like my table location."
Yeah, and I love Kevin Jones's idea. I love this idea, especially around Fort Myers, especially around in Arizona, just card shows around spring training. That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. Somebody in Arizona and Florida need to, when everything's cleared up, they need to work on that.
Well, Florida needs to clean up first, Brad.
But they need to clean up first. But
Not
then
going to be any shows on the West Coast where those teams are. I don't even know if they're going to be training there next spring. Who knows?
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's very true. Let's see. Boston is brought up here. Let's see what else. I'm trying to go run through real quick. East Coast, Florida. All right. Well, we covered that topic. You want to talk about number 62? Let me talk about number 62 for a couple of minutes. Aaron Judge, he did something. I don't remember. But didn't he break a record or something like that, Victor? Something like that. I can't remember.
That's debatable.
Uh,
Well, he did something. I don't know. He broke some record or some record. I don't know.
Allegedly, the American League home run record now is up for debate. Who ever heard of such a thing?
An American League record. I need some expertise on this, Dr. Beckett. Is that really breaking a record for the American? Is that real? I'm asking because I don't know, honestly.
no,
And that's why
all the other guys were in the National League.
yeah. So I guess I mean, if baseball says it's a real record, then it's a real record. I mean,
And it's partly because of designated hitter, which now is for both leagues. But when you've got pitchers hitting in the National League, it's a different working through the lineup than it is in the American League when you're bearing down. You got 9 real hitters because of the DH. So I think that's part of it. But hats off to Aaron Judge. My question is, I hadn't heard that the guy has sold the ball yet.
No, he's
At least
not.
He didn't give it, but I would, if I were memory lane, I'd be saying, that $2 million offer, it expires.
Mm-hmm.
Because who's going to pay more? In fact, although JP, the memory lane guy, I bet he's got a buyer at more than $2 million.
Yep.
It's so I'm hard pressed to think it's worth more than that, because Aaron Judge could hit 63 next year or somebody else. And as we're saying, it's uncertain as to where it stands, and it's a hallowed ball and record and the chase and all that. But next year there's going to be new things going on. They're liable to lower the mound.
Mm-hmm.
They're liable to do some other things that could so I don't know what he's waiting for. If I do not have any multi-million-dollar pieces of memorabilia, I have a great collection. But if I did, and my wife asked me for something, I couldn't in good conscience say no. If I'm holding a $2 million ball, or I've got kids, and my kids are grown now. But so this guy that won the lottery, in effect, I would think he'd need to cash out. You can't put it on your mantle. Otherwise, how are you gonna put it in a vault? I mean, that doesn't make sense. I would sell it.
Yeah.
I'm an avid collector. I would sell it.
I think I would too. The one that really threw me off is that, okay, so that night there were 38,000 fans. Tickets were going for $150 to $200 just for that event. That's to me, that speaks volumes right there. That speaks volumes of taking taking the money and run, straight from Philly Joe's, taking the money and run, because I would have never thought that the ticket would have gone that high this early. Maybe double, triple, under 100, maybe.
But what if they would have offered you, you get to meet Aaron Judge. He's going to give you a bat and a jersey and a picture and all of that. Would you still sell? Would you trade him?
As a Ranger fan, heck no, I'd sell everything. Forget that. Meet Aaron Judge? Who cares?
I would have sold the ball that night.
I'd have been like, here, I'll date it and then I'll burn the stuff. But that's only because I'm a Rangers fan.
Well, even how he's going to sell it. I mean, he's got to get it to California.
Yeah.
Or the California guy's going to come to him to work it out. But the other play here is to buy, instead of, buying a ticket to the game at $150 or $200 and taking your chances, buying 1,000 tickets.
Yeah.
And now, and all in left field. all in those front rows, and then increase your chances. Again, if it's a
Exactly.
$2 million ball, on the other hand, it could have happened the next night, but or it could happen the night before. So
It could have happened like twice over with Rangers pitching. You never, I mean, good grief. I'm surprised you didn't hit 4 of them against the Rangers pitching. So I will say this: if you do have an Aaron Judge card, you're rich.
There you go.
I saw this morning, and I couldn't just not show that. It just made me giggle. It just made me giggle. So, but you've got the ball now going for 2 million. At least that's the head hunting. Tickets are 150 to 200. I did notice that Aaron Judge autographs. I saw them now going for 700, and I saw them for 700, and I think it was 780, 790 with the home run on it. Is that worth it? 700 for an Aaron Judge ball when right up against that for 1,000 you could get Mantles, or 1,100 you can get Mantle balls. Is Aaron Judge really? I don't put him in the same. I maybe not be a Yankee fan, but I am a Mickey Mantle fan. So I don't think that $300 delta is really, unless you go back to what take the money and run and strike while the iron's hot, because Big Poppies went up right before at least $200 to $300. So
I'm so leery with ultra modern guys. I mean, they sign so much. Their first year in the league, or even the second, third year, there's so much autographs of these guys out there. It's crazy.
yeah, and now you know Luis Angel Acuna, Texas Ranger, just got first year into the league. His balls are going for 40 bucks a pop, non-authenticated, and you got left and right, those balls are everywhere. Part of it being because you got paid squat and he's in the minor league, and we've got all that entails. But his autographs are now absolutely everywhere with baseballs. So that's actually a good point with that, Mr. Victor.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a pretty good point. And then Philly Joe, just my luck, I just sold my Judge cards last year. I was sitting there looking at what's out there, what's for sale, what's graded, what's not graded. So I went through last year and looked at what I sold an Aaron Judge rookie card for. On 5/8, I sold it for $9.99, shipped PWE. On 8/4, I sold it for $2.69, shipped PWE. And then 9/22, I sold it for $2.99, shipped PWE. So that's pretty cheap.
it looks like a bad deal now, Brad. But when we're the laws of supply and demand don't work immediately. I mean, there's an ebb and flow of time, and really what we ought to be thinking about is future supply and future demand. And the future supply of Aaron Judge stuff, autographs, cards, whatever, is going to increase, and the demand is not guaranteed to increase commensurate with that. I mean, if Juan Soto hits 63 home runs next year, then he's the man now, or somebody else.
Yeah.
So Julio Rodriguez, these it's they get on a roll for a whole season, have a great situation. It's going to be the superstar of the moment, and so the future demand is not guaranteed to be sustained. That's why they say vintage with Mickey Mantle. He's not going to mess up. He's deceased now, but and so it's not about his records. It's the person that he was, and how many people idolized him as the Yankee center fielder who did all this great stuff, even though he was hurt a lot.
Yeah. 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 I had a different direction I wanted to go, but we'll just stick there. We'll just stick there. Um, Victor, you want to talk about the eBay Open?
Yeah, I think we should. I haven't I haven't heard a whole lot of chatter about it. Um, I'll set it up and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
eBay Open 2022 was about a week and a half ago, and it's a yearly conference that eBay does. It kind of helps people who have eBay stores and that sort of thing. And the they had a one of their presentations was held by Bob Means, who is the director of trading cards over at eBay, and he had a very interesting presentation that I think is worth a listen to. So look for that, and also I wanted to share a slide with you folks that he shared on the growth of trading cards in 2021. Can you share that?
Yeah, yeah. I just when Victor showed me this, I was floored. I was absolutely floored. It may take a second
Mhm.
to grab it, but
So what he's getting ready to show you is not the big four, which is baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, not necessarily in that order. But leaving the big four aside, these were the sports with the highest increases in growth. I tried to clean up the picture as best I could, but we look on the sports side, we see MMA with 577% growth, followed by tennis cards. Auto racing got a huge bump at 322%.
skid marks.
Boxing cards, and then soccer cards, surprisingly to me, at only 153% increase in growth.
Yeah, that's the one that floored me the most was the auto racing cards. But that just and I'm sure that's fueled by F1. I'm sure that's 100% fueled by F1. But there is that just by hearing auto racing by nature has NASCAR, which means that NASCAR and dirt and all the other racing in that, even drag, it gets a chance to have a little bit of extra push. But that was, I'm sure that's fueled by F1. But man, I sure did like to see that auto racing cards. And the MMA is very interesting as well. That huge growth.
You know, shockingly to me, I didn't see any wrestling here. I thought that there would be a big resurgence for wrestling in the last year.
Yeah, especially with all the new wrestling products coming out, you would think that that would be. Um, yeah, well, then Danny's he was right along the same. Increase can be swayed by manufacturers' new products, for example. Well, with all the new wrestling stuff that's out, you would think that that it may have just come underneath this 150 range.
Yeah, but
Oh,
boxing cards, they don't produce boxing cards anymore, not to my knowledge, anyways, right?
yeah,
So that would not be fall under tennis is probably Serena Williams
yeah,
and all the goals that she's accomplished.
yeah. And Danny and I were having a very interesting conversation about tennis a couple weeks ago before he took off for the East Coast or for the West Coast, and we were talking about a couple of tennis players, famous tennis players, that we were shocked that aren't really in the hobby, and ones that are very, very prominent in the history of sport. So I just thought that was very interesting that tennis is up that high. So, yeah, this is why volume is needed for context. And then boxing cards, interesting. Yeah, we need. So I'm a big 1990s boxing guy. I really think I, I I just
No, and for clarity, what the presentation was saying, these are the sports with the biggest growth that have sold on eBay in the last year. That's the context of what we're looking at in his chart in his presentation. You can watch the video for yourself. I think we can link that Couldn't
Yeah.
we on the show notes so folks can see it? But it's not. That's why I was shocked with boxing cards too. But what he's saying is boxing cards have seen a growth in eBay sales in the last year, and to me the most shocking was soccer with all of the excitement, buzz, hype, whatever adjective you want to put on it. All the buzz about it in the last year, and to see it at only 153% is shocking to me.
Well, hold on, guys. I mean, just the statistics, when they only show the percentage of those 5 categories, soccer's the biggest one. So, it had a much bigger base, denominator, if you will. And that 153% means it went up 2.5 times. So if they sold a million soccer cards one year, they sold 2.5 million the next year, this past year. So all those other ones above it are way less of in the prior year comparison. So it's not that's still astounding growth for soccer. If you had a company that only grew 153% one year, you wouldn't say, "Oh man, we really didn't. We're lagging the market." No, that's phenomenal growth, and soccer's the biggest one. Probably the same thing going on the right side with the games. Marvel is
Yeah.
had
254.
a base, so that means it's 3.5 times bigger. Again, these are great numbers that indicate that not just the big four sports, there is growth, and so we'll just take that. But which one is bigger? But we need to see the size of the market, what it was, what it is. The other encouraging thing, Victor, is that soccer is not spent. It's not
Right.
that they had so much growth that there's no more room to grow. No, they have a lot more room to grow because but their percentages are going to be smaller because their base is bigger, and it's going to get bigger too.
Very much bigger. I mean,
Whereas
considering.
tennis is, I mean, no offense, but tennis is being hyped a little bit. Now, wait a minute, let me take that back. It's being hyped a lot. But these are icons that are the stars of tennis are worthy, but people have really run into that in the last year or two, looking for the next big thing.
And that's why we have a doctor of statistics on the show to bring clarity.
Well, and I hit 210% last quarter for sales, but my quota was so low that I was able to hit. Oh wait, my quota was huge. It was impossible to reach, and I hit 200. But I did have a lower number to start with. So if next quarter it's triple, so it's going to be harder to hit the 200%. But I'm
Like I say, guys, I mean, I just, again, I try to have a sports card insight, and that is that I want to know what hasn't grown yet,
yeah.
because everything will grow if Fanatics has their way. They're going to be trying to do cards for everything. So whatever hasn't been discovered or talked about yet, that's going to be the play, not going to MMA that's already had from the graph a huge run up.
Well, I did hear that there were content creator cards available at the National,
They're big. They're the next big thing. I know, Brad.
especially the 101s.
Really?
Get them autographed. They're very, very precious.
That's right, and they're scarce too. There's not many of them. There's not many.
I don't know if you guys are serious or joking.
All it takes, Victor, is a run. On
Yeah.
anything, it's already we know this. Well, actually, we think the supply is what it is. John Newman could have run off a few more.
He could have. He could have.
I don't think he did, but I'm just saying that we already know the supply is low. All it would take is that if somebody had just all you need is a run on something. And some of the early tennis cards, they're not, they're legitimately hard. They didn't make that many.
Well, and there's also cards that are handed out at Christmas with Santa Claus on them that are autographed. Those are tough finds too. So you might be able to snag one of those graded. You might not. Could be a run on theirs. There might not. life happens, man. Life happens. So, well, we are coming down the home stretch. We've got what 4 minutes to go. Let's do a wrap up here. We know that. I completely forgot who was coming up on Tuesday, so I apologize. Tuesday night, we'll be on our regularly scheduled channel there at 8 o'clock Central. Make sure that you join us on our regular YouTube channel, Hobby Hotline, that we're broadcasting not only on Bench Clear and on Hobby Hotline, but I wanted to thank the people at Bench Clear Media, Mike, Ty, and all everybody there for allowing us to invade their space for a little bit of time Saturday morning. I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Beckett, for allowing me to spend time with you on Saturday. It's greatly appreciated. Wanted to especially thank guys in Sports Card Shop at Moco. Thank them very, very much. Victor, appreciate you spending time with us on Saturday. What do you got coming on for the rest of the day?
I am still helping my daughter. She just purchased her first home, and I promised her that I was going to help her redo a few things, and it's turning out to be like a complete remodel. So I'm back on my way over to her place to do a little bit of work.
Well, enjoy it, because you never can get too much kiddo time. Yourself, Dr. Becker, what are you doing today?
I'm gonna use that with my wife. I'm remodeling my card collection.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
I'm remodeling it.
I got a whole
See if
collection.
that flies. I'm not sure it will.
I got a whole card collection that I bought that I need to remodel. Otherwise, the wife would start to get on to me. So I'm headed over there into the other room as well. So, well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages. We appreciate you spending time with us. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Make sure you watch some baseball tonight. We got some baseball playoffs. Go Mets that are going off. Hopefully, Pete Alonso will do better than 1-for-4, and Mets will pull a win out. So I'll say thank you very much, and y'all have a absolutely fantastic afternoon.
Thanks, Brent.